when I was growing up in North Georgia, I ate a lot of bologna and spam and biscuits and cornbread. My mama was from a big family out in the country. She had 11 brothers and sisters, and her mama had 10 brothers. And my daddy, who came back from the war and married mama, he had 7 brothers. So there was always a lot of people being born, a lot of people dying when I was a kid growing up. And my daddy didn't talk a lot about the war, but once in a while he'd tell a story when I got about 7 or 8. And my recollection of it about my daddy and the wars is he always kind of felt like that the reason that he lived through the war is because he was a heavy smoker and he was short. And the reason he thought that is he and my Uncle Jim, my mama's brother, they went in January of 41, and they stayed in until about the end of 45, and they kind of crawled across Europe. And at the end of 1944, Daddy was in the wrong place at the wrong time, and he got captured by the Germans. And when he was telling me the story when I was a kid, he said, yeah, I was kind of afraid they might shoot me. And he said, I was standing there, had my hands up, and he said, I had a couple packs of cigarettes in my fatigue jacket, and I kind of made some motions to them, and I reached in there and I pulled out a pack, and I offered all of them a cigarette, and I took one too. He said they were all big guys and pretty mean looking. The one that looked the meanest after I offered everybody else a cigarette, and the one that looked the meanest, I gave him the rest of the cigarettes. And they all kind of seemed to enjoy themselves, and they were kind of laughing. And he said they were all taking turns coming around and putting their arm out over me. My daddy's name was Clayton Silas, but they called him Shorty because he was only about 5'3". And he said them Germans, while they was enjoying his cigarettes, each one of them would come over individually and hold his arm out over Daddy's head, and they'd laugh. And he said, although he didn't speak German, he said he felt like what they were saying is that America is really scraping the bottom of the barrel by sending these midgets over here to fight us. But he got lucky. He was only a prisoner for a couple of weeks and got rescued, he and my uncle. And later on, time went by, and I went to Vietnam and come back, and Daddy had gotten sick. He got what John Wayne liked to call the big C. He got cancer, and I think he might have been right about them cigarettes saving him, but I also think them cigarettes killed him too, because my daddy was the kind of guy who either had a Pale Male or a Camel non-filtered in his hand all the time. And anyway, I went up there to visit him. I was working on the railroad and took a couple of days off, and I went up to North Georgia, went to see Daddy. And when I come in the house, Mama was so happy. Boy, she was just thrilled. She said, Larry, your daddy's been saved. And I thought to myself, I thought about all the years we went to church without my daddy. And I remember when I asked him one time when I was a kid, excuse me, I said, Daddy, why don't you go to church with us? Because it sure did bother Mama. And my daddy, he said, I never did care for people that act one way on Sunday and act different the rest of the week. And I said, okay, I understand that. I didn't really understand it then, but as I got older, I understood a little more. But anyway, she said, your daddy's been saved, and I'm so happy. And the minister was there, and I shook his hand, and I gave my mama a big hug. And I went back to the back of the house to their bedroom, and the door was closed, and I went in there and closed the door back, and Daddy was there on the bed, and he was had his knees about drawn up to his chin, and he was getting on towards the end of the cancer business. And I went over there and sat down on the bed, and he woke up, and I said, how you doing, Daddy? And he said, son, he said, really, all I want to do is I want to get this dying business over with. And I nodded, and I waited a minute, and I said, I said, Mama says you've been saved. And he says, yeah. He said, that's right. He said, I did it because I thought it'd make her feel better. And he said, but you know and I know that I don't believe that stuff. And I said, I know. And he said, but I wanted to make her feel better, so I told her that. I said, well, I'm glad. I said, that'll make her feel better. She was a big church goer. Me and her and my sister, I can't remember when we didn't go to church. And sometimes my grandma and other people too. But anyway, sat there a little while and he went back to sleep. I think that talking kind of tired him out. And I sat there for a few minutes looking at him on the bed. And anyway, I was looking at this guy. I was trying to remember him, trying to memorize it, because I was thinking to myself, you know, this is probably just about the only person in my life I really, really wanted the respect from him. You know, because I'm real Southern, and I think part of being real Southern means you're real stubborn. And me and my daddy, we spent our lives arguing and fighting, but I loved him. And I looked at that face, and I looked at it a little bit longer, and he had gone back to sleep, and I got up and left the bedroom, went back to see Mama. Me and him never talked about it again, but he was old enough to retire in October, this time of the year, old enough to retire on Monday, and he died on Friday. We had to send his only check back, and I always thought that was kind of a bum deal, but, you know, that's the way it goes. You come here, and then you got to leave. But anyway, October means I always think of Daddy. Thank you.